Hey guys, what's up? It's Marco, and today I'm going to be talking about why I love DC Rebirth. It has almost been a whole year since DC Rebirth started back in May of 2016, and DC has been crushing it in comic book sales, and for a very good reason. DC Rebirth is everything old school fans have been waiting for, and it's an easy jumping on point for any new comic book reader. First, let me give some context to this whole situation. About 6 years ago, DC relaunched their entire brand. They rebooted their entire universe with the New 52, and with the New 52 came a whole bunch of new first issues and a whole bunch of changes to the continuity. Yeah, DC had almost thrown away all of their continuity for every character except for maybe Batman and Green Lantern, and they had totally rewritten a lot of the histories and changed the origins around and done a lot of not so favorable things towards the fans. Initially, the New 52 had upset a lot of fans, and a lot of the characters, the histories were changed, some characters were erased altogether, relationships had never been formed, and decades of stories were just gone. Like, all these characters were no longer really friends, or even knew each other at all. The Teen Titans, like decades of Teen Titans stories, just didn't exist anymore, and the Teen Titans were barely being formed just right now with Teen Titans #1 in the New 52, and it was a completely different team. And Tim Drake wasn't even considered an official Robin. Most of the heroes were de-aged and brought back down to their 20s, and as a result, most of the marriages were retconned out of continuity. Mara and Aquaman, Wally West and Linda Park, Lois and Clark. In fact, during the New 52, Superman and Wonder Woman had a relationship together. And in the early years of the New 52, it was very confusing for fans about what was canon, what was not canon anymore, and how is DC going to handle this going forward. And DC editorial didn't really have an answer. Their answer was just, we'll fly by the seat of our pants and we'll bring things back from the previous continuity, but we'll just rehash it and retell these storylines, but in a really stupid kind of way. And a lot of old school readers had just dropped DC Comics altogether. A lot of the comic book fans who were reading DC since Crisis on Infinite Earths had just dropped the company. And even a fan like myself, who had only been reading since Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, and Blackest Night, I was pretty shocked by all the drastic changes brought onto the continuity in DC Comics. And you could say the fan reaction was very similar to what a lot of Marvel fans are dealing with right now with all new, all different Marvel and Marvel 2.0. However, DC did bring on a plethora of new readers during the New 52, and the sales did stay consistent for many years, so the publisher wasn't really in a rush to change things back to the previous continuity. That is until 2015's lackluster sales for both Convergence and DCU. Comic books are a lot like life. Change is inevitable, but unlike life, comics can always change back, and in one form or another, the status quo can always be reverted. And in May of 2016, DC Comics released the special 80-page comic DC Universe #1. Rebirth #1 was such a breath of fresh air. It was such a relief for so many readers because it signified the return of the old. It was the return of the original Wally West. It was the return of Ted Kord's Blue Beetle. It was the return of Dr. Fate, and it hinted at the return of the Legion of Superheroes, a very classic team, and it also hinted at some darker DC characters we hadn't really seen in the main continuity, and a few different stories from prior to Rebirth #1 seeded a few different ideas like the Final Days of Superman, Titans Hunt, and the Darkseid War. These stories had teased the return of the pre-Flashpoint Superman, the reunion between all the original Teen Titans members, and hints that Alan Moore's Watchmen were secretly shaping the DC Universe and the New 52 from behind the scenes. Yes, that's right. In Rebirth #1, we had a big reveal. Alongside the reveal that there were 3 Jokers in the same Earth, the Watchmen were revealed to have a big part in the New 52. In fact, Wally West reveals that some darker force, a blue hand, had stolen 10 years of continuity from the superheroes' lives. That explains all the gaps in the continuity. That explains why all our heroes are so much younger and so much more inexperienced, and it explains why so many relationships were lost. There's so many gaps in their stories and in their continuity, and this explains why there's such massive plot holes in the New 52. It's because 10 years of time have been stolen from the continuity. In one foul swoop, Jeff Johns has completely retconned everything and set the stage for countless DC stories to come. The rest of the Rebirth titles pick up right where the one-shot left off, with Superman and Lois Lane raising a son together, Batman preparing for war, The Flash reuniting with Wally West reuniting with the Titans, and The Flash further investigating the Watchmen button alongside Batman. However, unlike most comic book storylines and events where they just charge straight into the mystery and look for answers, DC is playing the long game. They're trying to tell a story here, and they're allowing the comic books and the titles to continue to develop their characters, this newly established status quo, before we get further into the mystery of Rebirth and why the Watchmen have been doing this. It's almost been a year since the Watchmen button came to the Batcave, and Flash and Batman are barely going to be investigating this upcoming spring. They're allowing the stories and the titles to be told and to fully express themselves, but they still have this overarching, overlooming feeling of doom that is just encompassing every Rebirth title. You know in the back of your mind that there is a bigger threat out there, but you still want to be engaged in the stories that the writers and artists are telling right now. You want to be fully engrossed in this current status quo, in this current world. And also, DC is not throwing away, it's not abandoning the New 52, not entirely, because they did amass a wide audience with the New 52. There's still a large fan base there that adores all these characters and plots introduced in the New 52. So DC is taking a very traditional approach. They're taking all the old characters, all the new characters, and having them share this continuity. They've created an environment in which both old and new readers can appreciate these stories and can pick and choose which heroes they want to read about. If you want Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz as Green Lanterns of Earth, there's a story for that. If you want Hal Jordan fighting space monsters with Green Lanterns, there's a story for that. If you want Lex Luthor trying to be a good guy, trying to be Superman, there's a story for that. And if you want Superman and Lois Lane raising their son on a farm, yeah, there's also a story for that. You see, DC has made Rebirth the most pleasing and most appealing comic book relaunch in recent history. It is something that an old reader can come back to and find very familiar, or new concepts added onto older characters that they thought they would never see in their lifetime. And new readers can come into Rebirth and just pick any title, and they're all good. Most of them are fantastic. And with the price tag of only $2.99, what's to lose? I loved that about DC Rebirth in the very beginning. Every title, $2.99. And it was fantastic. And even though they're going to raise the price for some titles back up to $3.99, the twice monthlies, your Superman, Action Comics, your Detective Comics, Batman, those will still be $2.99, and that's great because DC realizes that every comic book fan has only a chunk of pocket change to spend on a comic. So if you lower the price, then you could buy a little bit more of your comics, and we're willing to put a few more comics in our stack, because I know that $2.99 price tag was an easy way to convince me to buy a few titles that I just wouldn't have read, but I'm glad that I did. Alright, so there you guys have it. It's everything, well, mostly everything I loved about DC Rebirth. I'm probably forgetting a few points, but I just love DC Rebirth so much because it's a game changer for the company. It wasn't a full-on reboot, but it's a celebration of all the old and all the new characters, the continuities, and it's a celebration of fans, and it's fan service done right, really. It's also event comics done right because it's allowing the stories to be told while also having this looming threat, this looming story arc, and it's something that a lot of events can learn from, especially Marvel events. But maybe Marvel is trying to take a page out of DC's book with their upcoming summer event, Generations. But yes, if you want to catch up with DC Rebirth, now is the perfect time to try, and it's so easy right now because the first trade paperbacks have just come out. If you're a new reader, you don't read DC comics at all, now's a good time to start. And if you're an old school DC reader who's probably fallen off after a few years, now's a good time to pick it back up, and you'll never know until you try. I highly recommend titles like Action Comics, Superman, Detective Comics, Batman, All-Star Batman, Trinity, heck, even Aquaman is a good title right now. I know what you're thinking, Aquaman's a joke, but no, not this Aquaman, he's pretty awesome. Yes, but highest rated ones, Superman, Trinity, and Detective Comics. Try them out, see if you like them. Also, Nightwing is a pretty good book. And that's gonna be it for today, guys. If you like this video, make sure to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out some of our previous videos. Remember to turn on bell notifications to be notified whenever we upload a new video, and we will be back next week with more videos, more podcasts, and more reviews. Have a good one, guys. Thank you so much. Peace.